Petra, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Guy. Thank you for having me.
I was thinking earlier, because I had Matt on the show a few days ago, and I'm thinking, why haven't I got Petra on sooner? Like, it's been so long since you last came on the show. So I'm very happy we could make it happen.
I'm very happy to be
And
here with you. I guess it's the right timing now. So let's see what comes out.
absolutely. So I'm going to ask you what I ask everyone on the show, and that is, if you were at an intimate dinner party right now, and you sat next to a complete stranger, and they asked you what you did for a living, what would you say?
Oh, actually, I just had a very similar conversation with my kids the other day because they don't know how to explain what their mom does. And then even their mom doesn't know how to explain what she does. So most usually I say I'm a therapist because it's pretty challenging to explain what actually I do to, just a random person. Yeah, but actually, I do so much on so many levels that I don't think that the word exists for what I'm doing, actually. What would you say what I do?
I know.
How would you explain to somebody else?
Well, so when it's funny when people ask us what we do or what do we do at the retreats, especially, because I even got asked today, well, what is it you do? And I just say, I run retreats at the moment, like, because it's a simple answer. And then they ask, what do you do? And I say, I help people remember who they really are. And then I always get, a really interesting kind of thing from that. But when people ask me about you, which happens as well, so what does Matt do? What does Petra do? I actually say intuitive therapist. So, but then I still get puzzled looks.
Exactly. I know. Yeah. So it's hard to describe, but I would say that I help people heal whatever they need to heal and to remember who they are and to live their purpose. And just, trying to bring more love and light into the world while I'm still here. I think that's what all three of us do, actually.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's what got us
but
connected.
I know that can sound, and it can sound really broad, can't it? But as we start to lift under the hood and realize how much stuff that we hold, we carry, past traumas, past experiences, even beyond our mind, when we're willing to start to look and start to go under the hood a little bit, it's amazing what we find. And it's just when people are ready to look there, if it's the pain is too great, they can't bear it anymore, or they're actually just ready to be self-empowered, that's when they tend to show up.
Exactly. Yeah.
So my question for you is, because I know you've been looking at this work a very long time, and like you said, you have so many kind of tools to your toolkit and how passionate you are. What I'm curious about for you is what led you down this path in the first place?
Well, if we are talking about like really the first moments of me feeling and knowing that I'll be doing this, it really goes very early into my childhood because I really, really could feel this strong pull and just in a knowingness that I know that I'll be helping a lot of people. But, being raised in a pretty normal family with all like 3D earthly problems and stuff, I kind of didn't go onto that path fully from the beginning. I was just studying economics and running a company and stuff like that. And but along the way, I always, in my own time, I would retreat and I would explore energy work and healing, and I was always learning all those techniques. And then at one point in my life when, as you know, my life really collapsed and it all have broken down, I just had the opportunity to go back to my normal life that I knew, or to finally start living my purpose. And then I decided to start living my purpose, and I never regretted, really, because since then, my life really took an amazing turn, and I've been supported by amazing people and just doing what I'm supposed to be doing while I'm here. But everything that I went through up to that moment really helped me understand people I work with, because, I was a normal person. I had my challenges. I have my challenges still, which really helps me be connected with them from my heart and, just understand and know how they're feeling, because I've had my challenges and adversities as well.
I was going to ask you, because do you think that you had to go through those challenges and adversities to really be able to do what you do now, or do you think you could be doing what you do now without those challenges and adversities that happened in your life?
Well, I don't know how would it be if I didn't have all these challenges, but I can tell you that I really find the blessing in them. And when I work with people, I can really catch myself that I feel what they're going through. You know, I've had my share of traumas. I've had many, many things that I had to go through my life and many losses, and I really feel them. So I don't know if I would be able to feel it if I didn't go through that path. But I can tell that I'm grateful for all the experiences I had, even though it was very hard and very challenging.
Yeah. Well, question for you is, and because you work with so many people as well, and you see people come in, and they'll come in when those challenges and those pain is great, and they're ready to shift and ready to move on. And speaking from your own experience, why do you think it is that we kind of allow and sit with the challenges in life and the discomfort and the pain, and we continue to live that way until it gets to a point that it becomes so great that we then decide to change? I mean, from your own experience now, even now you can look back with the wisdom and from yourself and working with other people. Do you think it's part of our soul's calling and our journey, or do you think it's just growing up as a human being? What do you?
I think it's both, you know, because as souls, we really, before we come to the earth, we decide what kind of experiences we want to go through, what do we want to learn, in which circumstances. And then we have to go through that journey and walk that path. And we need to experience and feel what we came to learn. And this overcoming of those problems and challenges and adversities is just one part of the learning, you know, and I think we are postponing that because we are evolving and maturing. And I would say, you know, most of us feel really lost and unable to cope. And we just keep on looping in this feeling of just being where we are, not knowing how to push through until we are ready, and then somebody comes into our life, and you know, it could be a person, it could be an ad for a retreat, whatever, a therapist. Something happens that pushes us on that journey, and then we, you know, peel a huge layer off and we start healing. But the timing needs to be right. We need to be ripe in one way. And yeah, some people do heal in smaller steps, and some people really, you know, heal in huge chunks, I would say.
But we really need to be ready. We need to be ripe, I suppose, like you said. And you know when you are ready to go through that work. And from your experience as well, because I'm fascinated, right? Because, and you always dissect this so amazingly. When I see you when you're operating, especially at the retreats or on our group coaching calls or whatever, you know, because the way you break things down, because we always get caught up in the mind. We're always trying to solve things from the mind. And it's always the mind that got us into the problems in the first place, to a degree. But obviously we can have traumatic experiences or things influence us. But they could be so long ago we even forget about them. But yet they're still affecting us at a deeper level beyond the mind. So how would you explain it to someone for the first time when you start to work with these modalities, working with trauma, working with people, when people are ready to start going within and looking at this?
I mean, even though our conscious mind might not understand or remember what actually is cause of the problems that we are facing today, you know, our bodies continue to remember. We continue to carry the memory. And we know today, you know, that 95% of our mind is subconscious mind, and it's stored in the body. And if we continue to try to understand it with this 5% of our conscious mind, we cannot. But we all try to do that. We all spend a lot of time trying to understand what's going on and why are we facing certain things, or we continue blaming other people or situations in our life for what's happening. And then comes the point when most usually our body starts calling out and through some diseases or illnesses or pain and discomfort. And then we kind of get afraid of what might happen with us. And then we start looking into other ways of healing. Or sometimes a huge shift happens in our relationships. Maybe we just go through a divorce or a big loss, or we lose a job or something like that happens. And that really wakes us up, and we realize, okay, now I really need to do something with my life. So it could be different things for us, but the most important thing is that we really cannot comprehend what's going on with our conscious mind. We need to dive into ourselves. And then also, as we continue doing this work, we do become more and more aware of the souls we are, and this amazing wisdom that we can actually tap into on a daily basis and get the answers. So even though we do forget what we decided to learn here before we are born, I think, as we just spoke a few minutes ago before the podcast, that as the veil is being lifted for all of us, we are all more and more conscious and aware, and we are more and more easily tapping into the infinite source and getting the information so that we could all rise and move through the challenges as the whole community, as the whole earth, much faster now. I think we really live in amazing times now, and it is challenging for all of us, and it's new and it's fast. But I think we are ready, otherwise it wouldn't be happening.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's quite incredible but with some of the things you say, and I think most people listening to this show and podcast will be nodding their heads in agreement, but it can be a stretch for people to be thinking like that as well if they've not experienced it, especially in the old self. And I was only having a conversation with Matt the other day, like my old self, the old rugby player, drinking beer self, was so far removed from this. I had no concept, but I get to reflect back on him now and see him and feel where he was at when looking upon this work. And once you start to have embodied experiences and start to dive into it, you really start to understand it, but you have to experience it first, I find.
Definitely. I mean, for somebody who still isn't on this path, this is like really woo-woo, and I know that both of us sound crazy to them, but I know they will come to one point to understand what we are talking about when they experience it. And that's what often happens on our retreat, right? I mean, people come because they just had enough of their lives. They have no idea of what we are doing, most of them, but they're just had enough. And they surrender to us, and then they really experience and embody all this, and then they go out as completely different people. And I just love seeing that.
Yeah, it's why we do what we do, isn't it? It's incredible. What tips would you give for someone listening to this right now that might be in a place or a practice they can start looking at, or just during the day or something, to think, okay, I'm in pain, I'm not happy, I don't know why I keep doing this, I lack direction, I lack purpose, because this is what we see a lot. And I feel a bit helpless and I feel stuck. But at the end of the day, the answers come from ourselves and within, which seems like a paradox when we're always seeking externally for someone to tell us what to do. I mean, what kind of things have you found have helped yourself over the years in your own challenges, because we've all been in those places?
Of course.
I certainly have as well.
We've all been. I mean, just the fact that we are becoming aware of that something is not going on in our lives, or that our bodies, trying to get our attention, is the first step of healing. So I would acknowledge that, okay, I'm becoming aware of that something's not working and that I need to change something. And then just do our best to stay open and be open. And, each one of us will receive the help that we need if we are willing to open to receive the help. It's always around us, teachers, therapists, friends. The knowledge is here. The help is here. We just need to allow ourselves to receive that help. And very often we don't feel worthy of receiving, in those times we are so, it's at such a low point that we don't feel, worthy to live a better life, not capable of moving through. And I think the most important thing to know is that it's normal to feel that way, that we all felt this way at one point in our lives, or many points in our life, right? And that it's when we are in those states, we think it's only us. It's only me that I'm feeling this way, and then we feel ashamed and guilty because of that. But no, everybody goes through those times. It's just that people don't talk about it. And I think that brings a big relief to know that it's normal that we have those phases, and that's actually a gift. When we are at our lowest point, it can be a huge gift and a turning point.
Massively. But when looking back in hindsight, but at the time, obviously,
it's so hard to see it that way at that time. That's why I'm saying it now. Yeah, it really doesn't feel that way. That's what I want everybody to, hear it once again, or as many times as needed. It's okay, it's normal, and it's your time to make a change.
Yeah. With everything you've studied, and I'm always fascinated how you end up getting into different modalities and different things. And when I looked at your bio and your resume, I'm like, I could talk about that, and start picking it apart, But the one thing that fascinates me as well, because as a man, again, I couldn't even relate to this. And I want to talk about the energy centers and the chakras, because even if I heard the word chakra, I'd run a mile. I'm like, what's that yogi shit? But once I felt them moving and started to fully understand the connection to the body and the soul and the self, it was a game changer for me. It really was. And it really started to reorganize myself in a way I didn't even think was possible. So my question to you is, what led you into your interest into that kind of work? And we can touch upon them as well for people that are not familiar with them.
So, as I told you, when I was still really young, when I was in my teenage years, I started to learn and study energy. And it was, a really, really, a field that was keeping me in awe. And I didn't understand it with my conscious mind, but I knew that something was there and it was just pulling me. And then a little bit later on, when I was starting to be a yoga teacher, and I clearly remember having a workshop, and that was so physically so hard to endure. And it was a workshop led by Sean Korn, and she was a beautiful teacher. And as she was guiding us through asanas, the words that she was using, and I was in kind of out of body place because my body just couldn't move anymore, because it was like all day, going through various yoga asanas, and somehow I just had this epiphany, and somehow it started to land for me, the connection between what's going on in my physical body and with things that are going on in my life. Pain in my knees, pain in my lower back were reflecting challenges I was facing at that time in my life. And somehow it just started to land. Everything that I was learning up to that moment, I could feel physically in my body landing. I could understand, okay, this pain is related to this, and this discomfort to that. Okay, and it's okay, I'm going to move through it, and I'm going to just gently go through it instead of pushing myself like I used to, because I really used to push myself in all areas of my life. And that's what actually brought me onto the path of energy centers. I could feel it finally. And then as I continue working as a yoga teacher and as a therapist, I could see it in other people. I would observe them as they would be going through a yoga class with me, and I was observing their physical bodies, and I would just know. And, I started to trust my intuition much more along the way. And I could just feel it, sense it, and I just knew. And it happened to prove right. And that's how it started. It just started to land. But I did a lot of learning with my conscious mind up to that moment, and then that finally the shift happened and it started to land, and I started to see everything in a different way, perceive everything in a different way, and understand energy.
You opened a couple of loops there for me, and one is about the relationship with the pains in your body to what was going on in your life. Now that can feel a million miles away for some people, but the more I've learned into this work, when I start to have certain issues, I actually look up and think, oh, well, what does that mean from, from a spiritual perspective or a life perspective? With all the people you've worked with and with yourself as well, because you've worked with thousands of people now.
Yeah.
Like, how significant do you think that relationship is between the emotions that we feel to the things that are showing up in our life to the parts of our body that are in pain?
Oh, if you ask me, it's 100%. I don't doubt it at all anymore. At the same time, I think it's very important that we don't try to put ourselves in boxes. That pain in the knee means definitely the same thing for all of us. It doesn't. Yes, it could mean this or that. We know from, this metaphysical view, but I always allow space to hear and sense what are those knees talking for that person in particular, or for myself, or for example, lower back. Mostly people who experience pain in lower back have issues with money, with finances, or they need to make some big decisions in the area of finances, changing jobs, moving houses. That first root energy center is connected to that. But I also stay always one step behind, and I allow to everything to reveal to me, because sometimes, yes, problems with money are included, but there might be something else underneath, which might be some traumatic event from their childhood that needs to be resolved first, because of which they don't feel worthy enough of having money or feeling safe or whatever. So it's not that easy as it might seem at first. But looking through the concept of energy centers and connection that we know that between, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and body parts makes it easier. But still, I would, step back and allow to be shown. To be shown.
There's an investigation, and it slowly works its way there. And again, you touch on something amazing about the fact that if you are financially insecure right now and you're getting back pain, and we always try and again rationalize it in our mind, but the fact that you said there could be a childhood trauma that you're not even aware of, that was so far long ago, is out of your conscious memory, and that could actually be causing the issue,
which reflects as
manifesting.
It manifests as a problem with money. Yeah, exactly. And, it can be really a trauma that could have happened when we were little and we forgot about it. But it could also be a belief that we took over from our parents on a subconscious level, because when we are little, we are like little sponges. We are just taking in everything, and we are perceiving the world the way our parents are perceiving the world. So, for example, if our parents lived in poverty, or if they lived in times of war, their perception of the world is there will never be enough stability, security, there'll never be enough money. And that's what we learn as children. And then we keep on carrying this belief with us. And also we can kind of energetically take it even while we are still in the womb, And because we pick everything that's going on while we are in the womb. And we can also take something from some other lives as well on a soul level, because there's something that we are still learning as souls. So it's when I'm doing a regression, and when I do a womb regression, it's very interesting to see, is it coming from the womb? Is it coming from, before? What's the lesson for the soul? Why are we experiencing these challenges today? So it can be many, many, many things. And that's why I say I always allow space for that individual being and to see what's actually going on and what could be the reasons.
Yeah, and it's mind-blowing. And you're touching on that. It took me back to when you did the regression for us all in the group coaching a few weeks back. Mm-hmm. And I remember we got back to the womb, and I remember, and because like as we learn to surrender into these and try not to use the mind of filling what's coming through, I remember feeling my mum and feeling the anxiety that was whatever was going on in her life at that moment, bless her. And it just blew me away. And it was almost the fact that I could feel it, acknowledge it, it started to release itself.
Yeah, when we realize it's not actually ours and that we don't need to carry it anymore. It's such a powerful tool, the regression itself. It's amazing.
And I want to bring it all the way back to the energy centers, because we did go off tangent. But I know we dive deeper into this, obviously, especially at the retreats. But for people listening, how would you then explain what the energy centers are and how they do tie into emotions, and how that is then kind of affecting into the body?
Well, I would say, that first of all, we are energy. We do perceive ourselves as these physical beings, and it's hard to comprehend ourselves as energy. And when I look at energy centers, when I perceive energy centers, let's say that way, or sense energy centers, I see them as they are whirlpools of energy. And when we are aligned, when we are instead of balanced, the energy moves freely. But as we just spoke about, beliefs that we might have brought these times of our life, whether we formed them in our childhood or we took them from our parents, or we brought something from even before, experiences we had that might have caused energy to stay stuck in various parts of our body, feelings that we might be feeling causes, I would say that the energy becomes dense and it cannot move. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It just means that we need to dive into that so that it could be released again and the energy could start flowing again. And what we tend to do is we tend to run away from those places. We tend to dissociate. We tend to run into our heads and then get occupied with whether work or social media or, gossiping or just doing something that will take our awareness from those painful things that we carry. And since you asked about the energy centers, when I work, even though there are many, many energy centers, I focus on the main 7. And I developed a concept which really helps me explain, first of all, to my clients, to my patients, how it's all correlated and which feelings, which emotions, which beliefs could be related to what's going on energetically in their body and why their body might be feeling, pain or being ill, and how is that related to whatever is going on in their lives. Because if we, for example, we spoke about fear and insecurity and instability in the area of first energy center, then we won't be able to move forward in life to our third energy center, because we won't feel safe enough to make a mistake, because we think that if we make a mistake, we won't survive, we'll be criticized, we won't be loved, we'll be judged. We won't be able to open from our hearts in the fourth energy center, because we'll be afraid of losing the false security that, we are clinging onto, those little pieces of security that we are trying to grasp. So we will be afraid to open to love and risk losing that person, even though we never lose anybody. So everything is very, very connected and very related, and we cannot, cut them. The energy is just transferring and bringing information from one energy center to other and so on. But it is important to start looking inwards instead of trying to escape from what's going on, because all the wisdom lies within, really. I know it sounds like a quote, but it is that way.
It's life-changing. It really is. Once you grasp it, it really does. Bruce Lipton, he said a quote on my podcast a couple of weeks back, and I'm trying to think what it was. It's like, knowledge is power, but knowledge of self is self-empowerment. And I really think about it, like that really hit home for me. And when I discovered the energy centers and started working with them and noticing the emotions and the energy that was blocked, and actually starting to feel them again and free it, it was I can't even explain it. It was amazing, because I think what we forget is that we only see information equal to the thoughts and the feelings of what's going on within the body at any given time. So if we have become accustomed to feeling a certain way and thinking a certain way, then we can just reaffirm our reality every moment by that experience, because it's not the truth, it's only true to us, right? And freeing up those feelings, freeing up those emotions and liberating yourself through those energy centers, you really start to see life in a different lens.
Oh, definitely.
Right? you know, and then you start to see your past experiences, and that's when you can start to learn from them and see the gift in them and see the opposite of what you were in all that time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the biggest beauty is actually in the capacity that I look at my previous experiences today with love instead of feeling broken or blaming myself or blaming other people. Because really, when you get to this moment when you feel peace with whatever was happening in your past and realize that you are here as an empowered being because of all those things, it's life-changing. And it's so necessary, because at that time we stop investing energy into our past, and we have so much energy today that we can create with and create the life that we want. So it's a blessing. It takes time and work, I know, to get to this point. But
anything in life takes time and work.
Exactly.
Anything I have, you know, and something that just landed for me then as well, and I just want you to speak to it slightly, because somebody might be listening to this. Yes, but I get it, but they don't have my circumstances right now.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't had this, or this happened to me. And can you just talk to that a little bit? Because you would have seen, I think, pretty much everything with the situations people have been in and overcome as well.
Yes, I mean, I've seen so many cases that really left me speechless. You know, I've had therapies where I would be crying, really, that I couldn't help myself to stay detached from the experiences my clients had, because they were really hurt and, you know, raped, kidnapped, gang raped, you know, left in horrible situations as babies and children. And it's hard. It can be hard, you know. Yes, from a soul level, I can understand everything. But when I work with people, when I work with my clients, what we do is we really go back to kind of retrieve those parts and to heal those parts, to heal those children that were hurt and abandoned and neglected or in fear or whatever that was going on with them. And I feel for them. And I still am human, you know. I can see it from a soul level and see the beauty in the whole lesson that they chose to go through. But I feel for them, and moving through the process with them, and then seeing them afterwards living as a new being, living as somebody who is finally healed and feeling safe, and using those experiences to understand other people and help them guide, because many of my clients and my students are therapists today, you know, and helping other people heal, which is the greatest gift. I'm just getting goosebumps all over my body now. It's the greatest gift for me, really, you know, seeing that I played an important part in healing the earth, because I have students all around the globe and they are helping other people heal. And I know that I played an important role in that. And it's just mind-blowing. Still, I'm crying now, but it's been all worth it, because the job that I do is not easy, you know, and you know how it is for me. It's not easy, because I do. And I mean this, like, for me, it's been a gift. I even said it to Matt, you know, being able to work alongside yourself and Matt and be able to share some of the experiences and the wisdom that you bring into this. It blows my mind still, and it's a privilege and an honor to watch you work, Petra, and I'm just glad to be a part of it in what we do. Yeah. And I have no doubt there's so much more to come. Oh, I know,
right?
I know, and I'm so grateful for the two of you to hold the safe space for me. Really.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, following our calling is not an easy thing to do, you know, because some doubts, the human doubts still come, you know, and you have moments when you think, oh, you know, who do you think you are? And, you know, just you want to kind of
every day.
Yeah. To start doubting.
It's true, but at the same time, the more I look at this, and Ava as well, you know, she's 10 months now, my daughter nearly, and with Linda, and when I see her and I connect with her, I realize how fragile and precious life is, and how much of a gift life is, and to become a father and have a daughter and see that and feel and witness that coming in and that evolution of myself, I realize how, even though we're only like probably halfway through our life, and life, we've got time, we do have time, you know, it's still a long time to go, but it feels like it's accelerating. But at the same time, I've done with the old self and the small self and all the old conditioned beliefs, and that's why I become so passionate about the work and the practices and doing it, because it's only when the rubber meets the road and actually having to take inspired action from all of this is where we start to see the results, and the universe meets us halfway. So I guess the point is to talk about that and the small self, and hopefully inspiring somebody listening to this, is that life is a gift, and who are we to waste it, and who are we to let other people's judgments, experiences, or shame or doubt or whatever has been said to actually hold us back and stay small within that, when there's so much potential in each and every single one of us as a human. And all we have to do is honor that gift and realize it and start listening to our heart and our soul and what wants to come through.
Yeah.
And as we do that, life just, for me, becomes richer and richer.
We are definitely not
have conversations like this.
We are definitely not helping anyone if we stay small, right? You know, and
Exactly.
We all are here to bring some kind of gift to humanity, each one of us, and we all play an important role. And if we would all allow ourselves to, you know, open our hearts and live that purpose, I mean, where would we be? But I do hope that everything that's happening in the world right now is an opportunity for us as a race, as human race, to rise higher. And I hope that we will stop holding our eyes closed and our hearts closed.
Yeah, time will tell.
Yeah.
Time will tell. Now, leading from that last part, now I ask this everyone on the show, Petra, so I can't break a habit, but I am curious I am curious as well, just from your own personal journey, and you don't have to share too much, but like, when you look back upon everything now, what was a low point in your life that has now become the greatest blessing?
Well, I would say when I lost everything, when I got through divorce, I lost all the money, I lost my health. I lost basically everything except myself and my children. And I really had to start rebuilding my life from scratch, and my physical body from scratch, and my work and my family and everything, my home. And that was hard because my body was very sick. I was very tired, and it was hard to, you know, pull all other things and make it work. And the other time was when I, as you know, remember that I was abused. And it happened pretty recently, which was a huge shock for me, because having all the knowledge and knowing all the tools, I was falling apart. And it was very hard for me to accept that I am falling apart. Me who knows everything, me who helped so many people that were traumatized. And I had to find this humbleness inside of me and an enormous amount of self-love to be able to just sit with myself in those times. And being out of it now, I can see it as a huge, huge blessing. And I think I'm still not aware of the whole blessing that it's actually bringing to my life. I think it's still going to be shown in future months and years. Because it was a unbelievable lesson, really, to fall that low in the moments when you feel you know it all, and to allow yourself to be, you know, really sad, ashamed, feeling guilty, broken, everything, you know, just name it, and then start rebuilding yourself. And I really see it as a blessing, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it will reflect on working with other people from now on. So I would say those two things, those two moments.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. And I asked the question because I think as well, when you're putting yourself out there a lot, and I keep mentioning Bruce Lipton, but I even spoke to him about it. You know, he went through all the same fears when releasing his book, Biology Belief. Like this book that's been sold, God, millions of times. I mean, it's Bruce Lipton.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was self-sabotaging and going through it all before finally going inward and looking at what was holding him back unconsciously, you know. And I think it's easy to put people on pedestals, because then we don't have to take any action because it's too far out of reach, you know. And that's not the case at all. And yeah, I just appreciate you sharing that.
Of course, I think it's important that we all remember that we are all human, you know. Bruce Lipton or you or me or anybody else that are doing this work, you know, people tend to see, oh, it's easy for them, to think it's easy for them because, you know, they don't know how I'm feeling and they don't know what I need to go through and what's happening to me. But actually we do. Each one of us had our own journey, and we had and have our challenges, and we are all humans after all, and we are all came here to Earth to learn. We might be just a few steps ahead, but it doesn't mean that we didn't feel the pain and the loss and the guilt and shame and sadness and whatever. So I think it's important to keep on telling that we feel them. We know, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question. What does your morning routine look like?
My morning routine
Varied?
looks
The same?
I do take time to reach, especially with all this lockdown and things. I really slow down, and with all the trauma coming up because of the earthquakes we had and re-traumatization and memories that came up to the surface, I really took time to heal. So my days today are much slower than they used to be, which was a new thing for me, and I had to adjust to that because I used to live in a state of stress, and it was normal for me to be multitasking and, you know, just because I was trying to survive my whole life. And I had to learn that this is okay too, this way of living. So I adopted a dog, so he takes me for a walk every day. So I'm in woods every morning, which is beautiful. I meditate. I really take time to contemplate and to be in touch with myself, to be in touch with the higher wisdom, because I think it is time for me now to work in a different way, and that's what I'm actually learning now. Something new is coming, I know, but I'm in the midst of learning. So all this me time and alone time is helping that. So let's see what comes. I don't know. Definitely is interesting.
What's this? Yeah, amazing. If you were in lockdown and you could go out for dinner with anyone from actually any time frame in the world, past or present, is there any burning desire? Who would you have on there, do you think, and why? Who would you like to meet?
Some really wise people, for sure. Wise souls. I think, Albert Einstein would still be the one. It would be interesting to sit down with Nikola Tesla as well, I would say. But also some very old people from very old times that were really in touch with, I don't know one particular person, but with everything that's, just coming to me now, like this knowledge of there's so much more. I know that there were people that knew so much more that we know today, and I would love to be able to sit with them. And I know that I am connecting with them in my meditations in some way, but having a dinner with them would be interesting for sure.
Even better, yeah. Last question. Everything we covered today, is there anything you want to leave the listeners to ponder on?
Well, just to keep remembering that we are all the same under the skin, and that whatever anybody might be facing right now and feeling helpless or sad or ashamed or guilty, that it's okay and it's normal. It doesn't make them different than other people. And that those times, that if somebody's facing those times right now, are actually the turning points if we allow ourselves to accept that we are feeling the way we are feeling and to start loving ourselves in those times. So that's what I would love to leave. Like, know that you're not alone. Know that everybody else is actually going through similar things at some stages in their lives, and that those times are actually the greatest blessing. And just reach out for help. Help is there, and you don't have to go through this alone. And then that could be
Absolutely.
a huge life-changing moment. It's a blessing. The biggest challenge is the biggest blessing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Petra, I just want to thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for everything and the gifts you bring to the world. And I'm genuinely excited to see where everything continues to unfold for us all.
Yeah, me too.
And long may it continue.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being in my life and walking this path with me. It's easier when we are not alone.
Totally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, much easier. Yeah. Yeah. Not too easy, but easier.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Thank you, Petra.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you.